Hey cultists, yes, we've got another mid-month one for you. What's going on? Are we bored? Are we crazy? Well, I'd buy that for $1. And with a tagline like that, there's only one movie we could be looking at this time around. That's right, we're off to old Detroit for the retro-futuristic 1987 sci-fi action thriller that is the Paul Verhoeven directed Robocop. Fan of this one? And, let's be honest, who isn't? Then stick around. There's sure to be some points of discussion that'll hit that funny spot. I'm DK, your tour around these filthy, crime-ridden streets, and that's before we even get to the studio for the show. As always, though, I've been assigned a new partner after my last one met a sticky end. This time around, it's the old man of this network who spends his time behind the scenes calculating whatever will bring him the most benefit. It's my regular podcast partner, Mr. Mike Wilson.
Hello, and I just have to stop you there, DK, because there's a couple of things that bug me about this. First of all, he's not a robot, he's a cyborg. They make that very clear. There are definitely organic parts in there. And the second thing is, we're English. We do not use colloquialisms like cop. So what I would like to do, DK, is introduce you to my fantastic UK-friendly character, Cybernetic Police Officer. There we go. You can't really see it very clearly, but you can see the tagline there is your move, sir, if it's not too much trouble, because, it wouldn't say your move, creep. And at the very bottom, stop, or I will be forced to file a report that you have created a disturbance of the police. Yeah, there won't be trouble.
What's that yellow stuff around his torso?
He's wearing a police vest, a high-vis vest, because he's a UK policeman. And if you look very closely, I wish I could show you it in advance. He's got a little Bobby's helmet in Robocop style on the top of him there. And he hasn't got a gun, he's got a baton because,
Yeah. Okay. Did you do this?
Yes.
Man, Jesus, what do you do with your time?
I was very bored. I'll send you the actual picture so you can, or I may edit it in at full size just because, terrible joke.
All right, then.
You can get rid of that.
All right, then, mate. Oh, dear. So how are you doing then today, mate?
Okay, I'm looking forward to talking about Robocop. It's a film that's it seems to have followed me through life, and as you'll probably hear, it's kind of in a lot of my wheelhouses, which will surprise nobody, given that it involves cybernetics, science fiction, satire, criticism of corporations.
Yeah, it's pretty much up your street, this, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
So. What have you got coming up on Silver Screen Cinema Classics and regular flavour this year? Anything that you want to talk about?
Quite a lot of things. We are doing a couple of seasons coming up, which I may as well spoil because I'm not going to tell you necessarily what's included in them. But I can tell you that we're going to be doing a season of sequels. We've kind of already kicked that off by this point with Scream 2, which was kind of a slow launch of it. The rest will be coming later in the year. And we are going to be doing a 1980s fantasy movies season. So you and I discussed it, and we came up with a list of about 50. We're not doing them all, obviously, but we won't reveal which ones we are covering between us, and because you're doing a couple, I think, on cult classics as well. So
yeah,
let's see how it goes.
Nice one. I look forward to it. Not just for the audience, for me. I've been itching to discuss films with you as usual. Speaking of, it's good to have you on here, man. But this has been on the waiting list for some time. You've been asking this for a while.
Yeah, don't tip my hand to the audience. But yeah, pretty much as soon as you started.
That was your wheelhouse.
Well, more or less. But as soon as you started Cult Classics, I was like, I want to do Robocop and Blade Runner. And I don't think we got to Blade Runner, but at least I got Robocop.
So you're excited to finally get into it?
I am. I have a lot I can say about this, and probably will. So hopefully I won't talk too much. We'll see.
No worries. Great stuff. So... let's talk. And, just for a visual aid, dear listener, please now imagine me dragging Mike off a club dance floor by his hair.
Hey, what is this shit, man? I'm protected.
Robocop is a 1987 American science fiction action film directed by Paul Verhoeven and written by Edward Lumiere and Michael Miner. The film stars Peter Weller, Nancy Allen, Daniel O'Herlihy, Ronnie Cox, Kurtwood Smith, and Miguel Ferrer. Set in a crime-ridden Detroit in the near future, Robocop centers on police officer Alex Murphy, who is murdered by a gang of criminals and revived by the mega corporation Omni Consumer Products as the cyborg law enforcer Robocop. Unaware of his former life, Robocop executes a campaign against crime while coming to terms with the lingering fragments of his humanity. Now, the film was conceived by Lumiere while working on the aforementioned Blade Runner, and he developed the idea with Miner. The script was purchased in early '85 by producer John Davison on behalf of Orion Pictures. Finding a director, however, proved difficult. Verhoeven dismissed the script twice because he didn't understand its satirical content until he was convinced of its value by his wife. Filming took place between August and October '86, mainly in Dallas, Texas. Rob Bottin led the special effects team in creating practical effects, violent gore, and the Robocop costume. Verhoeven emphasized violence throughout the film, making it so outlandish that it became comical. Censorship boards believed that it was too extreme, and several scenes were shortened or modified to receive an acceptable theatrical rating. It was a financial success upon its release in July '87, earning $53.4 million. Reviewers praised it as a clever action film with deeper philosophical messages and satire, but were conflicted about its extreme violence. The film was nominated for several awards and won an Academy Award as well as a number of Saturns. Now, it's been critically re-evaluated since its release, and it's been hailed as one of the best films of the 1980s and one of the greatest science fiction and action films ever made. It's been praised for its depiction of a robot affected by the loss of humanity, in contrast to the stoic and emotionless robotic characters of that era. It's continued to be analysed for its themes, such as the nature of humanity, personal identity, corporate greed, and corruption, and it's seen as a rebuke of the year's Reaganomics policies. Its success created a franchise, the sequels Robocop 2 from 1990 and 1993's Robocop 3, a children's animated series, live-action TV shows, video games, comic books, toys, clothing, and other merchandise, with a remake released in 2014. And like everything else we discuss here, Robocop can be found on streaming platforms, dependent on your location, or on physical media. And no doubt my co-host here is going to say that he has the 4K. Is that right?
Yes, we may as well get out the way early. I did watch this in 4K. I have owned it ever since I've been asking for it. And yeah, so the version that I watched is the director's cut that came out a few years ago with some added, more extreme violence to it. That's the only differences, though. I don't really need to get into it too much because it is. You can find a full list of there's an extra frame of like Murphy looking at his blown off hand or whatever, and it's basically stuff like that all the way through the movie.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you've heard me talk before about some of the dodgy film piracy that was going on in the school playground when I was young, and this thing at that point was the pinnacle of it. I was obviously way too young to see the cinema release, but some plucky guy had a copy of this and would happily charge you $5 for the privilege of owning your own copy. And I've got to say, I don't know where he got it from, but it was really good quality. I don't know how he did it, but hats off. I watched that thing incessantly to the point I knew it off by heart. And this franchise has had me as a fan ever since. And yeah, while nothing has reached the heights of this one, I can at least safely say I still get a kick out of most new Robocop content, unlike, any fans of Highlander. So what about you, fella? What are your first memories of Robocop?
Weirdly enough, I can remember the first time I saw this, and I was probably far too young, even though I didn't tend to veer towards things that had a high rating because I was a bit of a wuss when I was younger. But I can remember that this was actually, there was a house party that my sister was at with some kind of contemporary friends. My sister's about 2.5 years older than me. So I think I was around maybe 12, 13, and she was obviously, more or less drinking age for this country, 15, 16. So they were having like a house party, and there was a bunch of lads whose house it belonged to. Just basically a house similar to where we live, not that far. It wasn't like we went, to an odd place or anything. But yeah, the lads that lived there that were around the same age as her, 16, maybe 17, had like videos that they would put on just while everyone was milling around at this house party. I don't know why I was there. I presume she was probably supposed to be babysitting me or something, but essentially I was plonked in front of the Terminator and Robocop on this random TV, on probably recorded from TV old videotapes. So yeah, I can remember that was definitely the first time I saw Robocop. And then I remember that my mum had a copy of it on old video cassette as well. So after seeing it there, I was like, "Oh, cool! We own a copy of Robocop." It was so battered looking and old, but yeah, we don't have it anymore. But I now have the 4K, so it's
good. That's 2 mentions you've managed to slide in there.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm guessing, like me, this is a fairly regular viewing. Every, I would say at least once a year I watch this. What about you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Easily. Yeah,
And I mean, have your impressions changed since you first saw it? I mean, I'm guessing at that point you might not have picked up on some of the satire or some of the deeper meanings in the film, but I would imagine, like me, you might have got a bit of more of an appreciation as time's gone on.
Yeah, that's pretty much bang on. But it also, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, and that's not me just humble bragging. But this was actually part of my university dissertation. I did my dissertation on the representation of machine technology in sci-fi cinema, and Robocop was one of the chapters. So that was kind of when I really delved deep into seeing these kind of heavy themes and everything. I'd started to, as you said, when you rewatch it enough times, you're like, oh, there's something going on here. But that was when I really was able to study, academically, everything that was either intended to be said or that the film does say. So that's why I think I've kind of come off as a bit of an expert in this film, because I was steeped in it along with many others for several months there.
Oh, fair enough. Now, I understand being the fan that you are, and again, I'm not trying to tip your hat here, but you're doing the BTS for this episode, is that right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you wanna go for it, well, let's get some behind the scenes for this one.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll just jump straight in. So you mentioned the co-writer Ed Neumeyer. He has stated, I had this vision of a far distant Blade Runner type world where there was an all-mechanical cop coming to a sense of real human intelligence. While researching story submissions for Universal, Neumeyer came across a student video by aspiring director Michael Miner. The pair met and discussed their similar concept, Neumeyer's Robocop and Miner's robot-themed rock music video, which I really wish I had seen. In a 2014 interview, Miner said that he also had an idea called Supercop. They formed a working partnership and spent about 2 months discussing the idea and 2 to 3 months writing together at night and over weekends, in addition to their regular jobs. Their collaboration was initially difficult because they didn't know each other well and they had to learn how to constructively criticize each other. The script was purchased in early 1985 by producer John Davison on behalf of Orion Pictures. An experienced producer of exploitation and B films, such as the parody Airplane, Davison said that he was drawn to the script's satire. He showed Neumeyer and Miner films, including Madigan from 1968, Dirty Harry 1971, and Mad Max 2 1981, to demonstrate the tone that he wanted. Davison's contacts with puppeteers, animators, and practical effects designers were essential to Verhoeven, who had no prior experience with them. The producers discussed changing the Detroit setting, but Neumeyer insisted on its importance because of its failing auto industry. The connection between Clarence Boddicker and Dick Jones was also added at Orion's suggestion. So one of those rare instances of producer notes being good.
Oh, great.
And, you mentioned finding a director proved difficult. Many prospects declined because of the film's title. The project was offered to David Cronenberg, Alex Cox, and Monty Hellman, who did join as second unit director. Miner asked to direct, but Orion refused to trust a $7 million project to an untested director. Not fluent in English, Verhoeven said that the satire just didn't make sense to him. The scene that attracted his attention was Robocop returning to Murphy's abandoned house and experiencing memories of his former life. Verhoeven wanted to direct the film as a serious film. Neumeyer gave him comic books to explain the tone they wanted, including 2000 AD with the character Judge Dredd, probably not surprisingly. Neumeyer and Miner wrote a third draft based on Verhoeven's requests, working through injuries and late nights. The 92-page revision included a subplot about a romantic affair between Murphy and Lewis. After reading it, Verhoeven admitted that he was wrong and returned to the second draft in search of a comic book tone. Presumably very much pissing off those writers who had to write a third draft through all that, only for him to go, nah, it's good. Although some reports suggest the film was refused an R rating 11 times, Verhoeven said the number was actually 8. That's okay then. The MPAA took issue with several scenes, including Murphy's death and Ed 209 shooting an executive. The violent scenes were shortened and media breaks were added to help lighten the mood. Verhoeven recalled that one reviewer was confused by their jarring appearance in the film and complained that the projectionist had used the wrong film reel. Oops. The MPAA also objected to the scene of the mutated Emil being disintegrated by Boddicker's car, but Verhoeven, Davison, and Orion refused to remove it because it consistently received the biggest laughs during test screenings. Sick fucks. Verhoeven made the violence comical and surreal and believed that the cuts made the scenes appear more, not less, violent. He said that his young children laughed at the X-rated cut and audiences laughed less at the R-rated version. All right, dude, social services on their way. According to Verhoeven, people love seeing violence and horrible things. The film was released in the United Kingdom without cuts, which the BBFC justified by the comic excess of the violence and the clear line between the hero and villains. Yeah, it's pretty surprising in the video nasty age that this just completely went through. No problem.
It is, especially in the UK, because normally they're much more stringent on the violence side of things rather than the US.
Yeah, that's all I've got.
Nice one. Well, I presume you've got some as we come to each, as we touch upon each section. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
So, do you have anything with regards to the writing for this one? Because that's what we're going to come to first. So go for it.
Neumeier was influenced to kill off his main character early by Psycho, the 1960 original. Inspired by comic books and his experience with corporate culture, he wanted to satirize 1980s business culture. He noted the increasing aggression of American financial services in response to growing Japanese influence and the popularity on Wall Street of The Book of Five Rings, a 17th century book about how to kill more effectively. Yikes. Neumeier also believed, as we mentioned, that Detroit's declining automobile industry was due to increased bureaucracy. Ed 209's malfunction in the OCP boardroom was based on Neumeier's office daydreams about a robot bursting into a meeting and killing everyone. I think we've all had some of those meetings. Miner described the film as comic relief for a cynical time during the presidency of Ronald Reagan, when economist Milton Friedman and the Chicago Boys ransacked the world, enabled by Reagan and the Central Intelligence Agency. So when you have this cop who works for a corporation that insists, I own you, and he still does the right thing, that's the core of the film. It was Neumeier and Miner who conceived the in-universe news and advertisement media breaks that appear throughout Robocop. There we go. That's what
nice one. So I will say the media breaks with Perkins and Wong, it's an inspired thing. You know, when you first watch this and it comes up at the start, it kind of wrong-foots you a little, but the way they talk about the events and they put this, and they're the most ghastly events, some of them, like the laser misfiring and killing, the president and stuff.
Multiple ex-presidents.
And the one
tragic time to move on.
Exactly. And the one where he's on about the officer and he goes, "Good luck, Frank." I just think it's tonally it's fantastic. And it kind of sets you up for what's about to come. So, and yes, there are kind of serious bits. I mean, but as you say, they're over the top. They're a bit comic booky, but they are kind of serious, even with Clarence Boddicker, making quips and stuff like that. So,
but no, it's interesting what it says about like the way that society's been desensitized to violence. Because not only like in the reality of the film, you're watching Ed 209, basically put 100 holes in this guy or whatever, just lace through him in a boardroom. But also, the one that sticks in my mind is the advert for Nukem, where even the kids and stuff are just like, "Oh, we're gonna nuke you. There's nuclear proliferation. Oh, we've destroyed the world.
You crossed my line of death."
Yeah, exactly. By the way, there was a line in that commercial that was cut for a while from some versions, which was Pakistan's threatened our border. You can imagine why that would be potentially.
I'd forgotten that, but I remember that. Jeez. Yeah, and I think with a lesser director, you wouldn't have treaded that fine line between the darkness and the satire. Yeah, I think the satire in this is spot on. And I think when we looked at Running Man last season, they had a similar kind of thing going on there to try and make it look cynical. In there, it didn't work as well, where the guy climbing the rope for money and they've got the Rottweilers below him. But I think the adverts in this, they're really good. And it's not just the adverts, it's the... when they keep going back to that comedy series with Bixby, I buy that for $1. And when you look at it, oh my God, it's like, it's sleaze city, but you can't help but laugh.
I don't know if you know what that was based on, by the way. Did you read that anyway? Apparently, it was based on Benny Hill. It's supposed to be an Americanized version of him.
I've never. Yeah, okay. I mean, if you're gonna Americanize it and flash forward to the future, it's a bit more edgy. I can kind of see it. I
mean, it was obviously designed to be more extreme and Americanized, but I can totally see, yeah. I mean, people, if you showed them Benny Hill nowadays, probably wouldn't believe that shit was primetime TV.
Yeah, I know. It's not one for the repeats, is it? Let's be fair.
No.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. I just think it's, when you look at it, it's in a lesser film, it would have just been the odd thing here or there, but because they use it so consistently, because they use, it's like a touchstone every once in a while. When things get a bit too hectic, when things get a bit too serious, they always go back to the news breaks and the adverts to kind of lighten the tone a bit, and I think they do that in such a good way. It's just, it kind of gives you that little breather before the next action sequence. And I think if they'd not written things like that into it, it would be a much more basic, obviously a basic movie. And I think it would have kind of melded in with the other action movies at the time. I don't know. This to me seems like almost a response to the ever more extreme and ever more violent and over the top action films from that era. I don't know what you think to that. And it seems to like kind of cap them all off in a way that for a while, I'm guessing when Austin Powers was released, it did the same for the Bond movies. Because it does rely on, when you're in the action parts, it does rely on cliche to an extent, but it's not, unlike a lot of the action movies from the 80s, there are a lot deeper themes in here. And I think that's where this kind of caps it off and says, look, we've got a film here that's not only exciting, it's funny, and it makes you think, which is something that, let's be fair, Commando never did.
No, exactly. No, it's not your typical kind of around the era Schwarzenegger, Seagal, Van Damme, brainless action film. No offense. I mean, hey, they're fun. I watch a lot of those and enjoy them well enough. But I think, to kind of slightly counter you, I don't think missing out the kind of news and media breaks would have made the film kind of shallow, because there's also quite a lot being said about, corporations.
Not shallow as such. Yeah, not shallow as such, but I think it would more likely have blended in with the other action films without that little satirical edge.
I think the kind of the storyline,
bitch.
I think the storyline about the idea that it's, that even the criminals are basically being, the answer to the corporations, and corporate power is ultimately disregarding people, and it's more about the bottom line and everything, and all those things that we sadly are seeing now. And I mean, we shared the memes, didn't we? What was it? Remember the movie Robocop, when corporate America funds criminal gangs and helps incite riots so they can lower property values and then buy up the city while privatizing the police force? Science fiction is crazy.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's unfortunately been a little, again, as The Running Man was, it's becoming a little too prescient.
Exactly.
I think it's superbly well written, and it's got some eminently quotable dialogue. So I just wanted to know what you thought of the writing for this kind of humanity.
I would have just basically agreed with everything you said. Like I said, again, I kind of think there's more to the film than that it wouldn't have just blended in with other action films, and that's also another part of it, is that it does this sci-fi thing, which loads of sci-fi has done since, and it tends to always be done quite well, of like, where is the line between human and machine? And if you do that, what is it that makes you human? Is it your memories? Is there some semblance of what you might call a soul? Is it possible for a robot to have that if it's an AI? It's something we kind of got into more recently. But here you have literally the fusion of man and machine. It's cyborg, not robot. And then the question is, well, does he still have a soul? Is it still Murphy? And it does genuinely attempt to answer that question in a really cool sci-fi way that I think a lot of directors would be like, no, this bit's boring. Let's cut this bit out and get to the next shootout or whatever. But it's the heart of the film. And I have long said, I think this with the exception of possibly Some Like It Hot, has my favorite last line in cinema history because it's just so satisfying when he finally resolves the identity crisis. Oh, and what nice shooting. What's your name? Murphy. It's friggin' amazing, and it's perfect line to end the film on as well. It's just, yep, okay.
Yeah, and I do like how, you know, it gets to the point where his mask kind of comes off, and as his mask kind of comes off, he is more in touch with his human side.
I was going to mention that in the direction. It's quite deliberate that I think he literally he kind of strips off more and more, and you get into under the robotic skin, as it were, and see more and more of him as he's becoming more and more human. It's a very deliberate, I think, visual representation of what's actually happening. There was something I noticed during this viewing that I can't believe it hasn't really occurred to me before, which might be another reason why I kind of love this film, is that it plays out all the beats of a superhero origin film. And it clicked in place with me when I realized that when I was watching the montage of Robocop when he first goes out, after he's first been created after Murphy's death, it's more or less the same montage as Superman the movie, when you just see him going around Metropolis dealing with various crimes and stuff. And I was like, oh shit, this is basically, this is just, it's a superhero origin for Robocop.
Which is, it's kind of funny that Marvel picked up the license.
Yeah,
and then
but
produced the cartoon and stuff.
I mean, like you said, the writers were aiming for a comic booky type tone. So when you realize that, it's Judge Dredd to a degree as well, but it kind of just lends itself to that. And I was like, this is, I would argue, this is arguably a superhero movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly no different than Iron Man, put it that way.
Yeah, I didn't think about it in those terms, but you are right. And yeah, it does follow kind of similar beats to, as you say, things like Superman.
There's even the line when on one of those media breaks on the news reports where they say, oh, now kids can see what their parents could only read about in comic books. And I was like, oh, that's lampshading the fact that's what we're doing here, you know?
Yeah.
And, yeah. That is the same scene where they go to Robocop, like, oh, what's your advice to kids? And he just stay out of trouble.
Stay out of trouble. Yeah.
I only have a couple of other things that I wanted to bring up about the writing. Firstly, we kind of haven't mentioned it, but I do think it's a surprisingly feminist movie as well when it comes to the introduction of Lewis. She's introduced like literally kicking ass of the criminals and stuff, and she holds her own. Yeah, exactly. But she never really gets to appear lesser than or whatever, and or is made like to look, oh, you're a woman, stay out of it or whatever, which is, you know, it's very forward thinking, especially, you know, the 80s wasn't that far along in the whole feminist wave idea. So, and I did read somewhere that that was kind of what they were going for. That's why they made Nancy Allen cut her hair, because she didn't want to do that. She had long, quite more feminine hair, and they made her cut it to kind of give this impression, I guess, because back then, you know, you couldn't possibly be feminine and also tough. So yeah, there was a bit of that. In terms of the writing, I love little things that I wanted to mention, that like the idea of the through line of the TJ laser swirling the gun thing that Murphy copies, and that being something that he does as Robocop as a like link to his humanity and to his son. Such clever writing, because it achieves so much in so little, and yet also gives you a chance to, when you see it, just go, what a cool move.
Yeah. And it's obviously a reference to TJ Hooker at that time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. By the way, if anyone's interested, apparently it was Miner who directed the TJ Laser clip that you see. So he did get to direct something.
Oh, nice.
And,
just quickly going back before you continue to the feminist thing. It's all represented when you go in the locker rooms in the police station, and it's kind of like a unisex setup.
Yes. Yeah.
And nobody's batting an eyelid.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit unfortunate that you get although it is pretty hilarious, the whole bitches leave with Clarence Monaco, which, goes back to those. But at that point, it is, despite supposedly being the far future, it is the most 1980s scene of the film, because they're all on a cocaine binge as well.
Yeah,
so, yeah. But again, 80s corporate greed, at least you're satirizing it, I guess. So, yeah. No, I get you for sure. And that was what I was going to say next, is I love all of the kind of sci-fi stuff with the robots. So I love what I always read as kind of a twist on Isaac Asimov's laws of robotics with these Robocop directives. Yeah. And I've always loved the idea that Directive 4 was, you can't arrest, an employee of OCP because they technically made you. And just cannot not cheer at that moment, almost, more internally perhaps, but that moment where it's just the nice loophole of you're fired, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, genius.
Cue Ronnie Cox with arms like an orangutan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, getting on to I will say that this film is filled with actors that became kind of household names.
Definitely.
And I love that because, I'd never heard of Ronnie Cox or Kurtwood Smith or Miguel Ferrer, and I became one of Miguel Ferrer's biggest fans over the course of the year. Yeah, I mean, let's get on down to the performances in this. So, I mean, have you got anything on the acting?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go, if you don't mind, like actor by actor, because I have little bits of behind the scenes, and then we have our own thoughts, obviously, on what we think. But overall, I would just say before I start that they're all such good actors and giving great performances. It occurred to me this time that kind of thought lodged in my head when it was the scene between Ronnie Cox and Miguel Ferrer in the bathroom. And I was like, this scene has nothing to do, arguably, with the main characters of the film. And it's so damn compelling and so interesting to watch. Just, Dick Jones threaten the other guy.
Yeah.
Just great actors doing a good job. But yeah, so if it's all right with you, I'm going to start with obviously Robocop. So 6 to 8 months were spent searching for an actor to play Alex Murphy / Robocop. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Ironside, Rutger Hauer, Tom Berenger, Armand Assante, Keith Carradine, and James Remar were all considered. Oof. Some of those would have been a very different movie.
Yeah, we had a lucky escape there, I think.
In a lot of ways, because Orion favoured Schwarzenegger because he was the star of recent success, The Terminator, but he and other actors were considered too physically imposing to be believable in the Robocop costume. It was thought that Schwarzenegger would look like the Michelin Man or the Pillsbury Doughboy. Others were reluctant because their face would be largely concealed by a helmet. Vanity. Producer Davison said that Weller was the only person who wanted to be in the film. The low salary he commanded was in his favor, as were his good body control from martial arts training and marathon running. And get ready with your drinks, people. His fan base in the science fiction genre after his performance in The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. Yes, it still counts for the drinking game if I mention it instead of DK.
Yeah. It is getting like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. I'm sure at some point we can relate every movie that we've ever reviewed back to Buckaroo Banzai.
I'm sure you could.
Yeah, and they'd be all the better for it.
Anyway, Verhoeven said he hired Weller because his chin was very good. And Weller spent months working with Maimoni Yakim, developing a fluid movement style with a stiff ending while wearing an American football uniform to approximate the finished costume. Weller said that working with Verhoeven was his main reason for choosing the role over appearing in King Kong Lives. Again, probably a very wise choice.
To be completely honest, I saw this before I saw Buckaroo Banzai.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know him as an actor. This was the first thing I'd seen him in. It was only after that I saw him in Banzai and Naked Lunch and stuff like that. So, yeah, I really well believable. He's a likable character when he's Murphy at the start. And you can, I mean, I guess it's kind of touching upon the writing and directing and such, but it's the way Weller plays him as well. He's too nice. He knows something bad's going to happen to him. In fact, I think there's been a meme since where it just shows a picture of Murphy at the start holding his cup of coffee and smiling, saying, "Today's going to be a great day. I can feel it." Yeah,
it's going to be the best Christmas Wolford ever had.
Yes. So I think he's really believable, and it's not that he wasn't known, but I didn't know him, and I think that helped sell the movie to me personally. And he does play both sides of things quite well. I mean, he's good as Murphy, even though you don't see him that much, but he makes an impression in, say, the 10 minutes that he's on screen. But then when he gets to where they build him up to be Robocop and stuff like that, you would think, personally, I would have thought that would have been two actors, because the way he plays it. So when it comes back to him rediscovering his humanity, when he goes back to his old house and stuff like that, it shows just how good an actor is, even when half of his face and his eyes particularly are concealed by the mask, you still get that feeling of emotion when, you know, he flashes back to seeing his son and stuff like that. And you can see the fury on his face when it dawns on him what's happened, and he's walking out and, you know, the screen says, "Make me an offer," and he punches it. He has that presence, and he also has that, I mean, it's helped by the suit, but he also has that kind of physicality. He does it really well. And when you consider that not only did he have to, you know, give the regular performance, but as you say, he had to get training from a mime to actually look good in the suit and with the walking.
It really works, though. There are some cool moments, like little things like moving your body first, then your head, so that it looks like a robot, like moving different parts. It's such a clever little touch, you know? The
way, you know, I know sci-fi is often overlooked as, you know, ephemera kind of thing. So when it comes to Academy Awards, they kind of look down on it. But I honestly think he deserves more recognition, because in Robocop you see an actor that's just playing the hell out of it.
Yeah, I just want to echo everything you said, and also add that, bear in mind, that's also while in extreme pain. I mean, this was before things were even as comfortable as they are now, and we're still not great. So wearing that costume, and it was him wearing it. It wasn't a stunt double, you know, like Pedro Pascal style. It was him that had to wear that thing for long shoot days. And, you know, a lesser actor would have complained the whole time, or certainly, you know, thought twice about coming back for the sequel. I'm talking about Lewis next anyway. So Stephanie Zimbalist was cast as Murphy's partner and Lewis, but she dropped out because of contractual obligations to Remington Steele, which had been cancelled in '86 but was revived because of its popularity. So we could have had a very different person. Her replacement, Nancy Allen, thought the film's title was terrible, but found the script engrossing. Allen undertook police academy training for her role and sought advice from her police lieutenant father. Verhoeven encouraged her to act masculine and gain weight, which she accomplished by quitting smoking. So, yeah. So what are your thoughts on Nancy Allen then as Lewis?
I think we've already touched kind of on Nancy Allen. She gives such a great performance, and she does give that kind of, again, she does have that kind of masculine energy in this, and I think it works to her favor. I mean, I think the only thing that I'd really seen her in before this was Philadelphia Experiment and 1941.
Had you not seen Carrie?
Oh, I'd forgotten about Carrie. Yeah, she's really good. I mean, you can tell that she's taken some training. Like you said, when she kicks ass in the first minute, so you know you're under no uncertain terms just how tough Lewis is. And I think in a film that's as packed with, you know, science fiction themes and stuff like that, it would be very, very easy to get lost, especially when you're acting alongside someone in a big tin can kind of thing. And the fact is that she can more than hold her own performance-wise with Peter Weller, who's, let's be honest, is the center of attention throughout this movie. And not only does she hold her own, but you kind of root for her. And even when he's, at the height of his, powers kind of thing, she's still seen as an equal partner, and you never dismiss her for 1 second. And I think that's down to Nancy Allen's performance. Yeah,
I agree. I can't really add much other than to just say, the same. And she's so good at bringing, I mean, she became a favorite kind of character. You think of Robocop, you think of the partner Lewis. And that's one of the reasons I hate Robocop 3, is that I think it was such a mistake to kill her off, because they are so kind of linked in my mind, those two. She's just such a likable character. She doesn't really set a foot wrong in the movie. She's also Murphy's link back to his humanity when everybody else is trying to program him. And she's trying to get, to the bottom of, you're Murphy under there, remember, So,
yeah, I'm so glad. I'm so glad they didn't do that script where she was.
I wouldn't have liked to see them as interest. I wouldn't have liked to see them as a romantic couple. I see them as a kind of like partners. But again, to kind of your thing you were saying and what we were saying earlier about the gender dynamics, I kind of love that it's such a little scene, but the idea when she's like, I'll drive, and she's going to drive because she's taking command and taking the lead, because she sees him as her partner, and he kind of just has to slap that back a little bit and be like, no, I always drive when I'm breaking in a new part.
Yeah.
Even though he's the one that's like newer to the precinct and stuff, so it's understandable she would think that. But it's like, okay, I get what's going on. And the last thing I would say about her is I just love that the emotion she puts in at the very end with the Murphy, I'm a mess, and then when he delivers the brilliant line of, "Oh, they'll fix you. They fix everything."
Yeah, I mean that kind of got me worried when Robocop 2 was floated, that they were gonna she was gonna come back with some cyborg parts, you know.
She Robocop.
Yeah, she cop.
Yeah, that's just a female cop, dude.
Go on then, mate.
Who you got up
along
next?
Moving along next to Boddicker. Kurtwood Smith auditioned for Boddicker and Dick Jones. He was known, as he kind of still is, mainly for television work. Yeah, it's very jarring sometimes watching the dad from that 70s show do some of the things in this movie. But yeah, he hadn't had film success and he saw Robocop as a B film with potential. The character was scripted to wear glasses so he would look like Nazi Party member Heinrich Himmler. Smith himself was unaware of this and interpreted it as the character having an intelligent and militaristic front to conceal being what he called a sneering, smirking drug kingpin. Michael Ironside was offered the role but didn't want to be involved with another special effects-laden film or play a psychopath after working on Extreme Prejudice in 1987. And you'll appreciate this because, yeah, Kurtwood Smith, fantastic in a guest starring role during a particular two-parter of Star Trek Voyager. And speaking of that, Robert Picardo also auditioned for this role.
Oh my god!
I kind of want to see that version.
That would be freaky.
The holographic doctor just walking in and bitches leave.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously Voyager wasn't around then, so I knew him as Cowboy from Inner Space.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
So yeah, he's a good actor, but it would be hard to place him. I think Kurtwood just gives a fantastic performance in
He
this.
does. I don't think Michael Ironside would have been the right choice either because he's just way too on the nose, I guess. For that.
Yeah. He does have that kind of vibe that he's a really smart cookie, and he's really cunning. He's really manipulative. I mean, he's not manipulative to the point that he doesn't kind of know that he's being puppet mastered by Dick Jones to an extent. He kind of sees himself more as a partner than as somebody that's being used. And
but if you look at the scene between him and the other drug kind of cartels, though, when you see him like in his element, and he's in charge of that rope. You know?
I love that. Ooh, guns.
Exactly. Yeah.
Who's up
I'll rattle off the next few because I only have like 2 or 3 left, and then we can talk about everyone in one go. So, firstly, Ronnie Cox had been stereotyped as playing generally nice characters, and said that this left the impression that he could not play more masculine roles. Because of this, Verhoeven cast him as the villainous Dick Jones. Cox said that playing a villain was about a gazillion times more fun than playing the good guys. Jones, he said, had no compassion and is an evil son of a bitch. Miguel Ferrer was unsure if the film would be successful, but was desperate for work and would have accepted any offer. His words, not mine. The Old Man was based on the MCA Inc. CEO Lou Wasserman, who Newmeyer considered a powerful and intimidating individual. And that's all I've got about that. The actors then. So, yeah. Over to you. Any thoughts on everyone in general?
Everyone in general just plays it really well. There's not a performance. I mean, it's a cliche at this point on this show because we look at so many films and time after time we just say there's not one actor in this that gives a poor performance. But I think in this there really isn't. And that scene between Kurtwood Smith and Miguel Ferrer, the whole bitches leave kind of thing, and then he puts the video on with Ronnie Cox. I think that's really well done. Well done. And I think it's a testament to the actors. Like I said, this film made me a fan of, Miguel Ferrer, and touching upon seeing one of the gang as Ray Wise. Yeah, who went on to play, obviously, Leland Palmer, so he became a big kind of part of my life. And it's full of really good actors.
I mean, the only kind of experience at that point that I'd seen of Paul McCrane before he played Emil was in Alan Parker's Fame.
Again, there's not one
person in this that gives a bad performance. And I've got to give a shout out to Dan O'Hurley. He plays the old man so well that he's a bastard. But at the end, where he says, "Nice shooting, son,"
you can't help but think, oh, you know what I mean?
No,
He's like,
I don't really think of him as fully as much as a bastard. That's the thing, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. When Kinney gets completely obliterated at the start, and he's just basically not interested in Kinney. He's just,
Again, that's more about the desensitization of society, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose.
And of course, the way that you're looked on by corporations is, oh man, how much is this going to cost? Or whatever,
Yeah. Again, like I said, there is just nobody on here, and I've got to give a special shout out. I honestly don't know her name, but I remember having
Such a crush on the OCP exec that gets drunk at the party and kisses Murphy on the visor.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember that scene now. Yeah, but just really good acting by everyone. I can't really think of a weak link, even down to the way the gang members act. I mean, you hate them because, like you said, the way they taunt Murphy and everything. And I do think I always found it really weird what happens to Emil, just because it doesn't seem like it's like him getting the worst fate doesn't really seem to gel with what happens in the movie, and it's just so weirdly tonally out of place for me. I don't get why they felt the need to do it, but. Yeah.
I kind of dug that. I mean, I was a sick little puppy as a kid, so yeah, I kind of found that funny. I remember seeing like a feature in Fangoria at the time, showing him melting. I was just like, oh wow, because.
As I said, I was probably too young to have been watching the film. I might have been around 12, and I just remember hating that scene because it was the only thing in the film that I was like, I hate this. It's really horrible. It looks gross, and I don't know why it's there.
I just kind of like it that he melts to such a point that he just explodes as soon as the car hits him, and his head's bouncing everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, on that note, I mean, the direction we've already we've touched upon this. I think with a different director, it wouldn't have been as successful. No, I don't think. I think Verhoeven's got that kind of satirical style down pat, as we said with this and Starship Troopers and stuff.
Completely, yeah.
I mean, do you have any particular scenes that you think are done really well?
A few, but do you want me to get in with the stuff I have for the direction?
Oh gosh, yeah, I forgot, mate. Sorry, go for it.
That's it. I don't have much, I don't think so. Yeah, apparently Verhoeven began taking prescription meds to cope with stress-induced insomnia, and he filmed scenes under the influence. He often choreographed scenes with the actors before filming, and improvisation was encouraged because Verhoeven believed it could produce interesting results. Kurtwood Smith improvised some of his characters' quirks, such as sticking chewing gum to a secretary's desk and spitting blood over the police station counter. Saying, what if I spat blood on the desk? Verhoeven got this little smile on his face, and we did it. So, yeah. Neumeier was on set throughout filming and occasionally wrote additional scenes, including the New Year's Eve party, after seeing some party hat props and a news story about the Strategic Defense Initiative platform misfiring. Verhoeven found Neumeier's presence invaluable because they could discuss how to adapt the script or location to make a scene work. Verhoeven apparently gained a reputation for verbal aggression and unsociable behavior on set, but Kurtwood Smith said he never yelled at the actors but was too engrossed in filming to be sociable, and Cox and Allen spoke warmly of him. So make of that what you will. Verhoeven wanted the in-film media breaks to abruptly interrupt the narrative and unsettle the viewer. He was influenced by Pierre Mondrian's art, which featured stark black lines separating coloured squares. Peter Kahn directed most of the media breaks, but as I said, T.J. Laser was actually directed by Neumeier. I miscredited Minor, but it was Ed Neumeier who directed that.
Oh, okay.
I haven't noted a couple of scenes, but mostly I was very engrossed in the film. But there's a few things that I really appreciated. So the idea of like showing Murphy's memories, so that it's like his life flashing before his eyes the first time it does it, as he's kind of dying and being reborn as Robocop. And then, as you said, the way that it does it like effortlessly when he's seeing the past of the house he's in. And you go to seeing his memories of him living there and the wife and everything. And just so effortlessly done, which, as you said, a lesser director might have felt the need to over-telegraph that or overplay it. And it's just done so perfectly. I love, and that's such a genius idea as well, that once Murphy's been killed, the next sort of 2-3 minutes of the film are all from Robocop's point of view, which forces you to kind of identify with him and to empathize with what's going on. Again, such a genius touch that I don't know if it was in the script, but if it was the director's idea, I love that it does that, as you said, because you get such little touches of how jarring it must feel to be like asleep or gone, and then you wake up and something weird's going on, and you're getting a grin on your face, and then you go to sleep again. You wake up and there's a party going on, and it's a few weeks later, and you wake up and someone's addressing you like you're a product, and wake up again and someone's kissing you. I was like, that's just genius. And again, like I said, you don't really see Robocop because it's all POV until he's revealed, doing one of the heroic saves. And the only other thing I noticed that I thought was an interesting touch, which has been copied multiple times in kind of TV shows that I like, and I'll leave it at that, is where during the Ed 209 fight, the visor gets cracked and you see a shot of his eye, which I think is that's always cool shorthand for this fight is taking a lot out of you.
I've got to say, Verhoeven always seems, he not only can he do the moving beats, like, as we said in The House, and you touched upon it with regards to point of view of Murphy when he's dying and that kind of thing, but as well as the emotional stuff, I think for action sequences, he's fantastic. I'm specifically thinking of the Rock Shop one, where he busts in, and that's where you kind of see him in full action. And it's targeting all the people in there, and he's just walking through this factory like a bulldozer, taking everybody out. I think it's done really well as an action sequence. But it's interesting that you brought that up about Robocop's reveal, because you don't see him. You get that same kind of, especially when you watch it for the first time, you get that kind of itching sensation to see him when you just catch brief glimpses of him walking behind things when they first bring him to the police station.
Yeah, you see him on the computer as well, but it's not actually like a live shot of him. It's like the Robocop, I guess, armor, and like this is what it's going to look like. But you do get a glimpse of it on the computer that he walks past, and I was like, oh, so clever, because it whets your appetite all the more. Like, oh, what does he look like?
Yeah. So when all the cops are like running down the corridors to try and get a better view of him, you're with them. Yeah. You want to see what he looks like. I think it's really good, and I've always got to give a little shout out for whenever, I think it happens once in this, and then it happens in part 2 when the car door opens and his foot comes down.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, he's here.
Yeah.
And again, action sequences when he's chasing Emil, and Emil's on the motorbike, and he's shooting while the gas station blows up.
Oh yeah, I have a bit about that in the VFX production design. That's very interesting, but I'll tease that for ahead of time.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's nothing else on regards to direction, we can move on to that now.
I just wanted to say I love the for some reason I love the Ed 209 fights, but my word, that stop motion is dated really badly. But yeah, I mean, for the time, and it's still.
I just look at it in the same way that I look at, Golden Voyage of Sinbad and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I have to mention this scene, and I don't know if it's direction or again if it was scripted, but the sheer cleverness of Robocop. He's dealing with the hostage situation where those would-be rapists have got the woman in front of them like a human shield, and Robocop just shoots through the dress to hit them in the dick, which is just both poetic justice and genius. And then you're cheering 1 minute, and then the next you're just so deflated when he just hasn't got the emotion. And it's like, you've suffered trauma, I'll notify a rape crisis center. And you're like, oh, dude, come on, man. Have some emotion. But anyway, are you happy to move to the VFX production design?
I am, mate. So go for it with whatever you've got.
Robocop's costume was not finished until sometime into filming. This didn't impact the shooting schedule, but it denied Weller the month of costume rehearsal he'd expected. Weller was frustrated with the costume. It was too cumbersome for him to move as he practiced, and he spent hours trying to adapt, as I was hinting at earlier. He struggled to see through the thin helmet visor and interact with or grab objects while wearing the gloves. Weller fell out with Verhoeven and was fired, with Lance Henriksen considered as a replacement. But because the costume was designed for Weller, nobody else would have fit it, and he was encouraged to mend fences. So, yikes. Scenes of Bodica's gang blowing up storefronts were filmed in the Deep Ellum neighborhood. One explosion was larger than anticipated. Actors can be seen moving out of the way. Smith had to remove his coat because it was on fire, and the actors involved received an additional $400 in stunt pay. The Shell gas station that explodes was in the Arts District, where local residents unaware of the filming called the fire department. The scene was scripted for flames to modify the Shell sign to read Hell. Davison approved it, but it doesn't appear in the film, and Miner called it a disappointing omission, which I would agree with. I think that would have been really cool.
Yeah, I have to say that where he did blow his hand off with the shotgun at the start is still kind of you know.
I hate that. That whole scene is. I mean, I hate it is perhaps the wrong word, but it's really hard to watch it, as it should be. And I think it's only in the director's cut that you actually see the shot through his brain as well that ultimately finishes him off, and that's the reason why he's got the kind of bullet hole still on his face when he's in Robocop. You know, when he becomes Robocop and he's got the face with the stuff behind him, all of the metallics and everything. Which I have to say, by the way, I thought at the time, and I've thought every time I watch this since, how flawless that makeup is. That it looks like, you know, a face stretched over robotics.
Yeah,
and that's an actor and some makeup, and it's the definitive appearance for me of like what Cyborg could look like when the helmet's off, and it's just unsettling enough while also being weirdly fascinating if you're into tech like me. And yeah, but it also has all of the humanity of Murphy's face there. It's so good.
Yeah, sound design and music.
Yeah, I only have one tiny thing for this. It was Basil Polidouris, sorry if I've mispronounced that, who composed the film score after working with Verhoeven on the film Flesh and Blood. The score combines synthesizers and orchestral music to reflect Robocop's cyborg nature. That's it.
I love this soundtrack.
Yeah,
Absolutely adore this soundtrack. It's one of those that's always on my phone for if I want to play it, and I do. I've got a special memory for it because my parents went on a day trip at one point. I think it was to Bridlington, maybe, and they came back and they picked me up a couple of issues of Nth Man, which you don't know because you're a Philistine. They brought me a couple of issues of Nth Man, and they'd also gone in a vinyl store, and they had bought me the soundtrack for this. So I spent that afternoon reading Nth Man, listening to this soundtrack, and it went so well with even that. It's one of those soundtracks that you can put on and recognize just how good it is without having to associate it with the film. But when you do associate it with the film and, you know, relate it to what's happening on screen, it's just so much better. I think it's one of the all-time great movie scores, especially the 80s. And when you consider, you know, you've got John Williams and Alan Silvestri and James Horner and Jerry Goldsmith pumping out soundtracks back there, I think it's a testament to just how good it is. And I think Polidouris is really underrated as a composer.
Yeah, so as ever, in a few moments, we'll get to our final thoughts on this one. Not that you've got any doubt as to what they're going to be. And yeah, I think I know which way it's going to go. But until then, we want to hear from you and what you thought about Robocop, which means that once again, we're going to head over to Vian to hear what you had to say. Hello, Vian.
Hey DK, so lots and lots of feedback on Robocop. I'm going to kind of just jump around here. Carnivius on Blue Sky says, might be my most watched movie ever. Pretty much perfect, except for monkey arm Dick Jones plummeting. The only special effect that not only looks bad now, but looked bad then too, especially a year before Alan Rickman's iconic plummet in Die Hard. Otherwise, Robocop is fantastic, smiley face. So quick sidebar. And I don't know if your audience knows this, but me being an Alan Rickmaniac, in Die Hard, to get that authentic look, they actually told Alan Rickman, we're going to, count down from 3, 2, 1, go. And then they let the hook go on 2. And so he thought something had broken, and that's why he had that truly terrified look. He was completely unprepared. From NERD Facebook, Steve Jones says, I'd buy that for $1, which I believe is a reference to something that I don't know. Also from Nerd, Marcos Atten, Oswaldra, dead or alive, you're coming with me. You're fired, Dick. Did that hurt? And then he has the laughy face with the squinty eyes. The musical score and the Auto 9 were great too. David Howland, can you fly, Bobby? David Howland again, can they even broadcast the shotgun hand anymore? My guess is probably no in this day and age. Lots of memes here. Marcos Atten again, if you had a bad day at work, remember that this guy... he is the Robocop, died at work, and they resurrected him so that he could go back to work. Which, Hey, capitalism. From Cult Cinema and TV, Al Winter, still love the movie. Bit concerning that the way the media is now is almost the same as it is in this, which, like, well, yeah, it's, we do live in the worst timeline now. Our friend Thomas Labanik, 4.5 out of 5. Movie Sky says it's one of their all-time favorite movies, and again, I'd buy that for $1. A popular meme or screenshot from this film, at least. Let's see what else is going on. My computer's being slow, so bear with me, guys. Oh, it's Lady Van the Unburninated from Blue Sky. I do know her. And she said, the best thing about Robocop is that it led to a wonderful episode of Beavis and Butthead in which Beavis runs headfirst into a wall, mimicking the movie, goes to heaven, and St. Peter reviews his life with him. Spoiler alert, he gets sent to hell. So yeah, that's definitely my favorite bit of Robocop trivia, or maybe not trivia, but a homage, shall we say, to the movie. So, yeah, it looks like people really like this one. And with that, back to you, DK.
Nice one, Vian. Cheers. And thanks to you out there for giving us your opinions. And if you feel you missed out, we're always available on our socials, or if that's too much, you can leave a comment below. So, yeah, it's now time to round this up with our final words on the movie in the studio. So without further ado, I'm coming straight over to you, fella. Time to hand in your dissertation on this one.
Oh, bless. Yeah, you know, I've always got a long statement, to say the least. I used to watch a couple of film review YouTubers who would often call Robocop their example of a perfect movie. And honestly, I kind of get it. Long before postmodern became a buzzword, this thing was breaking its own story up with fake ads and news breaks. Those little interruptions make the world feel real, adding to verisimilitude while sharpening the already strong satire, as you kind of already said. Verhoeven's direction is genius in ways you almost don't notice. Right after Murphy is pronounced dead, as I said, we spend several minutes saying only through Robocop's POV. It's clever. It makes us identify with him. The same technique is used later to show his directives, basically a cheeky riff on Asimov's laws of robotics, and to reveal flashes of Murphy's memories, constantly reminding us there's still a person in there. The script is tight, effortlessly juggling a lot of deeper themes: corporate privatization, the human cost of technological progress, a society numb to violence. And underneath all that, it's really asking what actually makes us human. Is it memory, emotion, something like a soul? That's classic sci-fi territory, but here it's handled with real precision, peeling back layers literally at times, Murphy revealing his whole face by the end, until we hit one of the most satisfying last lines in movie history. On my latest watch, I also realized, like I said, it's basically a superhero origin story hiding in plain sight. All of this means that this movie is not just right in my wheelhouse, it practically is my wheelhouse. My only real gripes are the Ed 209 stop motion, which is charming but looks pretty rough now, and Emil's bizarrely grisly death, which just feels off. But everything else, the acting, the Robocop design, the prosthetics, the pacing, is so strong that any flaws barely register. So not quite perfect, but so close it might as well be. So I'm just going to go with the 5 out of 5. It deserves it. So.
Ooh, nice one. That was a good review, actually. You said you pretty much nailed it. I mean, I obviously went on these things. I'm not as loquacious as you, but yeah, I can't fault that at all. I mean, what can I say that I haven't already? If you've not guessed by now, I love this movie. It's one of the best sci-fi movies out there, in my opinion. Every facet's been handled with care, from the production design to the casting to the score. It's all just chef's kiss to me. The satire is sharp. It fits the era well, with the entire production being not only a comment on 80s society, but on 80s action films in general. I suppose there's a case to be made, like you said, Mike, that some of the animation effects look a little primitive, long arms and all. But to me, it's part of its charm. It's just pure awesomeness. So I am also giving it a 5 out of 5. Yeah, so it's going to be difficult to average this one out. But
so we add them together to get 10, and we share that 10 by the 10.
Yeah. So yeah, adding our scores together gives Robocop a perfect silver screen cult classic score of 5 out of 5.
Woo! Happy with that.
Yeah, I didn't really expect that to go in any other way, to be honest. So yeah, I kind of knew from the opening. So I'm guessing you're happy with that, yeah?
Oh yeah, I've never really encountered anybody who doesn't like this movie once they've seen it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's it for us. It's time for you bitches to leave. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this one as much as we've enjoyed talking about one of our favourites. And if so, don't forget to, cliche coming up, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Do you agree with our verdict? Let us know on our socials or again in the comments below. I'd like to give a big thank you to Mike for joining me once more on the show. Thank you, buddy. It's been a little while since it's been just the two of us on Cult Classics, but I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I always do.
Nice one. Well, we went into what's coming up at the start of the show, but is there anything else you'd like to draw the listeners' attention to so they don't miss out?
No, just as always, like you said, I've kind of hinted at what we're going to be doing on Silver Screen. So there's another full year. I mean, we're in the midst of it now, but a full year of Silver Screen regular cinema classics once a month, cult classics sometimes twice a month, it seems. So that's all. Just keep an eye on it. It's all going to be stuff to look forward to. And I do have to give a shout out to our other channel, Hit or Miss Hugh Trek, where we're kind of in the middle, if not towards the end of a series on reviewing Cybermen-related Doctor Who episodes. There is going to be an upcoming series reviewing Star Trek episodes revolving around the holodeck. So if you're into all that kind of sort of sci-fi type stuff, do check out that channel as well. It needs the views and the help, I think.
Well, I mean, Cyberman, it's quite apropos considering today's film. So, yeah. Take care of yourself. Thank you for joining us on this one. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening. Good night.
You have been listening to the Cult Classic Show, part of the Silver Screen Podcast. Created, written, and hosted by DK. Editing by Mike Wilson. Feedback section produced by Lady VN. Opening credits by Ian Sanderson. Music by Timeless Journey. Follow us on social media. Links to all of our social media pages can be found on our link tree. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. This has been a Mad Badger production for the Media Matters Podcast Network. Copyright 2024. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you next time. And remember, no matter where you go, there you are.